Beijing is taking issue with a report issued by the U.S. Pentagon that takes aim at China's military. The report says China's military is growing and its long-range bombers could be training to target the United States and its allies. It lists a number of potential military and security concerns in the report. China is responding by calling on the United States to abandon what it calls a Cold War mentality, and it wants Washington to choose more constructive language. Joining us to put this in perspective and talk about it all, Senior Captain Zhang Junshe. He is the Vice President of the PLA Naval Research Institute in China. Mr. Zhang, thank you very much for joining us. I want to begin by talking about China is simply adamant that the United States is stoking the international fires and, in its push for nationalism, reverting to what China calls Cold War mentality. What's the danger of that?
Well, first I want to say that to many Chinese people, the United States is still cherishing the Cold War mentality. That's because the United States policymakers, the military, are doing the same as they did during the Cold War era toward the Soviet Union. We know that during the Cold War era, there were two military blocs, respectively led by the United States and the Soviet Union. They targeted each other as a potential enemy, and they prepared wars against each other. So now we have seen that almost 30 years have passed since the end of the Cold War. But the United States is still looking for and making a new enemy out of China. They are spending a lot of money on the armament directed against China, and also the military, U.S. military is conducting a lot of military exercises directed against China. So if both countries return to the Cold War area, that will be a very dangerous case, because each other will spend a lot of money on the military instead of the people's welfare and other areas. And also, they may start another round of arms race. But of course, China has said many times that we will not conduct any arms race with any other country, including the United States.
Mr. Zhang,
I think the Cold War mentality is very dangerous.
Mr. Zhang, yes. Specifically, let's talk about some of the more explosive claims that the United States is making, considering that saying that China is, with its more modern military, is training pilots to potentially target the United States and that its planes could possibly carry nuclear weapons. Chinese officials are countering by saying they are pursuing a peaceful path. That kind of lends itself to what you were talking about when you said if you're going to spend billions of dollars only on military, then social welfare programs certainly suffer.
Well, first I want to say that all the militaries are conducting trainings and exercises just to promote their combat capabilities, because the military, their primary mission is to deter and fight a war if necessary. So this is also the case with the Chinese military. So we don't think such kind of training conducted by the Chinese military is not normal. Second, I think that the two sides should have a good understanding of each other's strategic intentions behind such military moves. For China, I think the main intention, the real aim for the Chinese military is to promote our combat capabilities to better safeguard the national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. This is true if you look into the modern history of China between 1840 to 1949. During this 100-year period, China was invaded by Western countries, including Japan, from the sea for more than 470 times. So Chinese military is promoting its capability to prevent such kind of tragedies from occurring again. So I think the United States should understand the Chinese people's feeling and their intention to strengthen its national defenses against any possible invasion again.
Mr. Zhang, one final question. You talked about the national interest of China. Taiwan has become a part of this give and take in the Pentagon report, with the allegation from U.S. military leaders that China is, in essence, flexing its muscle to quash any thoughts of independence by China. That's tough talk coming from the U.S., and China takes a dramatically different look at this, saying the United States should support Washington's long-held policy of recognizing one China. Could this issue really inflame relations?
Well, first, we should know that almost all the countries, including the United States, recognize the one China principle. And the vast majority of the world countries recognize that the PRC, the People's Republic of China, is the sole legitimate government that represents China. And the United States endorses the one China principle during the 3 joint communiques signed by the United States and the Chinese government. So we know that Taiwan is part of China, and we will not allow China, China's part of land, the Taiwan island, to be separated from the mainland. We will crush any separatists on the Taiwan islands. So if the United States violate the one China principle and break its promise it made during the 3 joint communiques and support the Taiwan separatists on the Taiwan island who preach Taiwan independence, that is not the Chinese people and the Chinese government will not tolerate. So we think that if the United States expand its military changes or official exchanges with the Taiwan authorities and sell more arms to the Taiwan authorities, this will be very dangerous. This will embolden the Taiwan separatists to make more provocative actions against the Chinese government. In return, the Chinese government will do the countermeasures to crush the separatists on the Taiwan island. So we hope that the United States side can understand the Chinese stand. Yes.
Mr. Zhang, thank you very much for joining us, getting up early on the Sunday morning in Beijing and joining us. That is Zhang Junshe. He is the Vice President of the PLA Naval Research Institute in China.